Welcome, folks, back to the channel, back to Dominant Mets Nation, and today we have some pretty interesting news. News that actually continues to surprise me. So, thank you for returning. We are marching to 5K subs. We are a ways away, but you know what? Join the channel, join the ride. It's going to be a fun ride, I can assure you of that. And let's get this video started off right. Hit that like button. And again, let me continue to thank all of our subscribers and our members. You guys are phenomenal. Please, I cannot say thank you enough. And thank you to our new subscribers in advance. All right, so the latest news, we had a story from Mr. Pat Ragazzo, the man, and he was reporting that the Mets supposedly have interest in Spencer Torkelson. And I'll tell you, Spencer Torkelson actually is a guy that I've been following the last couple years. He is a former number one pick in the 2020 MLB draft. This kid had all the potential in the world. In fact, I'm going to read you momentarily a very short scouting report and tell you how much potential this kid had. And this scouting report is not old, so you're going to want to listen to this. So again, we repeat, he was a former number one pick in 2020. He was selected by the Detroit Tigers. Torkelson in 2024 had a very underwhelming year. He batted 219, 295 on base, 374 slug, just 10 home runs. He had some very big struggles early on in the season. Second half was a little better. But the Tigers acquired Gleyber Torres, and they plan to move Colt Keith to first base. So that leaves a guy like Spencer Torkelson on the outs. In 2023, Torkelson, not a bad year. 31 home runs, 233 batting average, 313 on base, and 446 slug. So just a year ago, he did show pop. He did show potential. But, with these prospects, you want to see continual upward trend. You didn't see that in Torkelson. You actually saw regression. The good thing about Torkelson is he's going to be 25 next year. So he's not an old kid, but, he hasn't performed in a manner in which the Tigers are confident in him. They are not. So they're considering trades. Okay. So according to Pat, the Mets are looking into acquiring him. And, again, the Mets have depth. So, it makes you ask questions. The Mets have Brett Beatty. The Mets have Luis Angel Acuna. They have Mauricio. And in fact, a report that came out a couple of days ago, I think it was 2 days ago, that said Vientos and Beatty reports is that the Mets were getting them set to go to first base. So where does this lead you to believe? Is this another negotiation tactic from the Alonso standpoint? Are they trying to say, hey, you know what, Pete, we got the kids. They could play first base. We could also pivot to Spencer Torkelson. Is this another negotiation tactic? Or do the Mets have genuine interest in this young guy? So, that leads, one to think. So let's look at what it might take. But before we look at what it might take, let me tell you how highly regarded this kid actually was. So I have a scouting report from 2 years ago. The evaluator was Chris Brown. In fact, maybe it was 2.5 years ago, but he evaluated the ceiling of Torkelson. So Torkelson's 6'1", 220 pounds. He was drafted again in the first round in 2020. And they describe his physical description. He's sturdy, muscular build, broad shoulders, thick trunk, more agile than expected given his size, good athlete who was a linebacker and running back in high school. I wanted to mention that because, maybe you might be thinking, is he like a Pete Alonso? Although Pete Alonso's not the, slowest guy, but this guy was a former running back. This guy is a very good athlete. This guy still, defensively isn't that bad. So his physical description, there is upside there. Hits. From a broad base, he hits from a broad base with a moderate crouch. Slightly open stance, relaxed in the box with quiet setups. Begins with his hands, takes a direct path to the ball. Above average to plus pure hit tool that plays better because of his strong on base skills. So, strong on base skills. They give him a grade of 60 for the hit tool, which is very, very good. Now, listen to this because this is his highest grade. Power. They grade him as borderline elite raw power. Combination of bat speed, torque, and pure strength results in extreme exit velocities, steep bat angles to plenty of hard hit fly balls. Doesn't need to sell out to go deep. Doesn't need to sell out. Shows over the fence pop to all fields. Has power to all fields. Puts the barrel on the ball frequently and should hit 30 or more home runs annually, with 40 plus a possibility in his prime. They give him a grade of 70. Grade of 70. Again, this is actually equating you to like a Pete Alonso type hitter. I mean, like they're telling you this guy should hit 30 or more annually and 40 plus potential. And it gets better, the scouting report. It gets better because I'm going to give you the overall picture very, very soon. Field. So the last thing I'm going to give you is his field. They give it a grade of 50. He's a solid average defender at first base. Displays a quick first step and above average range for the position. Moves well around the bag. Presents a good target for infielders. Hands are adequate. Makes accurate throws. Okay, so this is where I'm going to give you the overall, and this is kind of what blew me away, and this is what caused me to share it with you. Okay, so overall, confident, leads by example. Pitcher knows he's in the batter's box. Spectacular production in college. Strong track record with wood bats in Cape Cod League and Team USA. Overall, the profile carries moderate risk. They tell you that this guy's almost a guarantee. Impressive combination of pitch selection, bat to ball skills, raw power could make him among the premier power threats in all of baseball. Unlikely to add much value with his glove, but shouldn't be a big minus on the defense either. Probable all-star with MVP upside. This report, just 2.5 years old. This kid, again, probable upside, probable all-star, MVP upside. The tools on this kid were off the charts. They're telling you how good and patient of a hitter he is. They're not telling you that he's just raw power. They are telling you that he is an actual hitter who can hit home runs. So, what went wrong in the last 2 years where now he's on the block? Were those tools actually, never developed? Or was it just one of those situations where he's, an MOB, where he hasn't really translated to the MOB? I mean, if this is something where Stearns is using to gain leverage in the Alonso sweepstakes, that's one thing. But if Stearns is actually looking at this as a buy low situation where he could potentially, maybe you want Guerrero, but maybe he actually sees the potential in Torkelson. And if you can get Torkelson at a minute price and opportunity and actually unlock these phenomenal tools, maybe that's where he's saying, you know what? Maybe instead of giving $500 million a Guerrero, we'll get Torkelson in here for a year. If we can unlock those tools this year and get that player that we see in the scouting report, we may have the steal of the century. And if we can't, then we go after Guerrero or Murakami next year. This might be one of those moves where I'm saying Stearns has to show he's creative. Stearns has to show he's a genius. Maybe he's going to seize an opportunity right now to do so. And yes, does it come with a little risk? Well, it depends what you have to give up. Also, if he stinks, yeah, you're going to waste playing time giving it to a guy who, just doesn't cut it in the MLB level. But the potential is there for a steal. There is upside there, as you see in the scouting report. I mean, there are tools to be uncovered, tools to develop. And also, if he comes out to be, hey, you know what? Let's just say he's got talent, but maybe the Mets don't see him as a long-term fit here, then he becomes a trade chip. Then he becomes a guy who's 25 years old, who has 3.5 years left of service time, and you can trade him elsewhere if you don't see he's a fit on the team, but uncover there's talent there. So I mean, it just really depends right now, like on how the Mets are approaching this, and it's just interesting. Please let me know your comments. What do you think? Do you want Torkelson? Do you think it's a ploy just to gain leverage in the Alonso sweepstakes? Do you think Torkelson's garbage? I mean, I'm pretty sure there'll be a big array of opinions about Spencer. But you can't take away the kid was one of those top draft picks, and he was seen to have a crazy amount of tools. All right. We got some more interesting topics to go, but before we go there, please, if you haven't got a chance, like the video. If you are new and you're an MLB Mets fan, passionate about baseball just like we are on this channel, subscribe. And again, I thank everybody in advance. And thank you to all who are sharing the videos. I do notice that. Continue to share the videos and spread the word. All right, so another rumor that we saw in the last couple of days, and this guy, I've seen him rumored to go several places, but in the last couple of days, he was connected back to the good old Mets, and that was Mad Max Scherzer. And I'm telling you, I got a feeling in my stomach, a couple of years ago when we were potentially to get Mad Max. He was 37 years old, coming off a very good season with the Dodgers. I was super excited. I'm telling you, I was super excited because if you remember, he was going to be paired with Jacob deGrom. So we were going to have that two-headed monster, those two aces, co-aces. First year 2022, phenomenal. And not only did Max Scherzer do phenomenal on the mound, if you remember, what Mad Max used to do is he used to have those huddles in the dugout. And those huddles, were good for the young pitchers. It was good. I like to see guys like Peterson, like look at superstar players and how they prepare on and off the field after the games, their summaries. I liked his presence on the team that year. I really did. I loved his presence. 2023, not so great, but there were a collection of things gone wrong. Verlander, I don't want to blame it on anybody, but 2022, that's the year I choose to look at. That is the Scherzer that I choose to pick. And obviously we traded him away and we got Luis Angel Acuna. So, he brought back value for us. He brought back value. So if we were to go to that Mad Max direction, my feeling on this would be, obviously you have to really eliminate the risk. This would probably be a 1-year contract to a 40-year-old player. He's a guy that you're not going to rely on being an ace anymore. He's a guy that, you would rely on giving you solid performances. I mean, he hasn't been terrible, but he hasn't been that ace. So you'd be giving him a minimal contract, 1-year contract. It's probably going to be in $12 to $15 million range. I think Verlander got like $16 million. So it would probably be a similar contract to what Verlander got. I expect, them to do something like that. And at the end of the day, you'd be giving less money to Mad Max than you did to a guy like Frankie Montas. And at the end of the day, I would expect better pitch games from a guy like Mad Max. Although he doesn't have the velocity he had from, years ago, he's a guy that has great secondary pitches. He's a guy, who is a very intelligent pitcher out there. And 1 year deal presents really no risk. I mean, I really, I like Mad Max. Justin, it didn't work out here, but Mad Max, we had that great 2022 run. Great 2022 run. So I'm really not opposed to that. But again, you got to make it risk adverse. He didn't pitch a lot in the last 2 years. So I can understand why some people are probably shaking their heads saying, no, I don't want to go in that direction. The only way I wouldn't go in that direction is if you're telling me you would pitch Mad Max over going after an elite pitcher or going after somebody else who is, obviously more stable. But if you're telling me it's just going to be extra depth, then yeah, I'm all for it. But if Stearns, and maybe I should be thinking a little bit more along these lines, because Stearns is all about value. If acquiring Scherzer is going to block you from potentially going after a better pitcher in the future or going after an ace, then it's no. Then it's no. But if he's an extra pitcher, if you consider him that extra pitcher, yeah, I'm all for adding a guy with potential, experience, a guy who can help the younger guys like Sproat, the guys who can help, the Nolan McLeans, Blade Tidwells, but specifically a Brandon Sproat. You want him to come here, and that's who I was specifically thinking when I thought bringing Mad Max here. Hey, that would be great for Brandon Sproat to learn from. Okay, so those were my initial thoughts on Mad Max. So, I guess at the end of the day, I'm like 60-40 on bringing him back. But they do have those caveats that I talked about. Okay, so let's get and this is actually in my opinion getting a little too much with this Alonso drama. I mean, and it is Alonso drama, and I'm going to talk about Martino right now with the Alonso drama. We'll talk about everything, the last two topics together because they go hand in hand. So, in the last couple of days, what did we learn? Well, a couple of days ago, Thursday, we learned that the Mets, according to Martino, were advancing conversations with not the Mets. I'm sorry, that Alonso was advancing conversations with the Toronto Blue Jays. In fact, according to Martino, Pete Alonso and the Blue Jays were on the 10-yard line. For all of you who are not familiar with football, that is the red zone. You are 10 yards away from a touchdown. You're close. You're damn close, right? And then, again, he refers to that being a metaphor and then also said, well, within the 10-yard line, there are many things that kind of can go wrong. So, I mean, he's hedging his bet. So in the back of my head, I'm like, sounds like BS. Lo and behold, a day later, and also, let me add, Tim Healy also said that the Mets were in deep conversations with the I keep saying the Mets. I apologize. That Pete Alonso was in deep conversations with the Blue Jays. So there was a lot of really talks about the Blue Jays in really deep conversations with Pete Alonso. All right, fast forward, Blue Jays reporters saying that is not true, that there's no smoke around that yes, maybe Toronto's still interested in Pete Alonso, but there were no deep conversational talks. So, okay, I was confused. I put out a video the next day saying, what's all this confusion? MLB insiders saying that Alonso's close with the Blue Jays, but then the Blue Jays reporters are disputing that. Is this being made up? Are these tactics by blowers? Are literally Martino and the reporters from New York, from around the New York Mets, are they literally the mouthpieces or relaying what's going on in the Boris camp? Very, very odd. All right, so a day later, you hear that supposedly on Thursday, when Alonso and Toronto was supposedly on the 10-yard line, that Alonso at the same time was having meetings with the Los Angeles Angels, right? So again, Martino said that is when Alonso and the Toronto Blue Jays were on the 10-yard line, but in reality, that is when Alonso was meeting with the Angels. So, you got to believe the Toronto Blue Jays reporters because that doesn't square to me. It doesn't square to me. And it tells you how inaccurate Martino was. Not only were they not on the 10-yard line with the Blue Jays and the Alonso camp, but the Alonso camp was meeting with the Angels. So you got that wrong, and you didn't get the Angels story right either. So again, there was no inside knowledge from the MLB Mets insiders. So, honestly, that really was a bit annoying because, a lot of us right now, a lot of, YouTubers, you rely on the MLB insiders to have inside information. And what I'm learning, and I've learned this several times in the last 3 months, but actually several times from being a YouTuber in the last couple of years, that even the MLB insiders are kind of hard to rely on. And specifically, I cover the Mets. We cover the Mets here on this channel. Um, the Mets, I do got to give them credit. They don't leak information, especially to Andy Martino. It seems. Does Andy Martino get nuggets here and there? Yes. But you go back and you can trace many different stories, and Andy Martino gets it wrong over and over and over. And I know there's a lot of pressure to be an insider, and I know sometimes you have to connect the dots. But even this offseason, asking Andy Martino where does he foresee Juan Soto, he said the Yankees over and over and over again. And anytime there's a little discussion, do the Mets have more money to spend? Last year, in February, do the Mets have more money to spend? Well, the Mets have $10 million left in their budget, so that would take them out of a JD Martinez sweepstake. Lo and behold, after he said that, the Mets signed a couple of relievers and JD Martinez, so that was wrong too. And, honestly, I don't track Andy Martino's errors, but it just seems like, if you connect the dots afterwards, that a lot of these reports have no merit. So, right now, I'm just going to take things with a grain of salt, especially when it comes to do with Peter Alonso, Boris, because it seems like he's really using figures in the media to kind of convey different messages. And I'm not saying the Mets aren't doing that too, because if the Mets are putting out there, hey, get Mark Vientos and Brett Beatty ready. Hey, Pat Ragazzo, we're interested in Spencer Torkelson. Hey, we're interested in so-and-so. The Mets are doing it in their own regard as well. But, it's just a game right now that is so damn interesting because we are heading into late January and still we're in the same position we were a month ago, where Pete Alonso has no market, where the Mets have not filled their first base void, and where at the end of the day, both sides may not want each other right now, but it seems like they're going to be left with each other. And when I say they both might not want each other, it's because I truly think there are hard feelings at this point. I do. I think the Alonso camp, Pete Alonso, I think he feels that he has been lowballed tremendously. I feel that he thinks the Mets are trying to get, a very, sweet deal for them, and they're not doing right by him. He sees Nimmo 160. Soto got that mega contract, but that's besides the point. I would more along the line look at a Nimmo. I think he would be ecstatic if he got $160 million over 8 years. I think he'd sign that. And it's funny saying that because he turned down a 7-year, $156 million contract, which would have exceeded that 8-year 160. But it just tells you, what the difference of a year will make. If the Mets evaluated him 160 last year, and I think that is also where the hesitation is. With Pete Alonso and Boris want to guarantee the most money this offseason. And unlike other guys like Chapman, Blake Snell, and it's different with a pitcher's market. It's different when you have an elite fielder like Chapman. Alonso knows what he is. He's not an elite fielder. He's not a dynamic pitcher. He could very well hit 40 home runs, bat 240, and that's feasible. I mean, 250, 240 around his career averages, hit 40 home runs, have an over 800 OPS, be another year older, and have the same trouble next year. But if he signs a 3-year, $100 million deal, at least he'll have $100 million guaranteed. right? $100 million guaranteed. I think right now, 3 years, $70 million is, that's where the difference is. I mean, I just don't think there's much confidence that the market will be that much better. Maybe he does have confidence in himself. And this is what I've been debating. Last month, I'm like, well, go out there and perform. But now, based on how the market has treated a certain position, I'm like, he could perform. He could go out there and have 40 home runs, 100 something RBIs, and the market still may not treat him well because they'll look at him as a 31-year-old first baseman. And they'll look at it as maybe he had, an anomaly at age 30. So I think that's the deal. You want to guarantee, if you're Scott Boras, as much money right now. But, in the same token, this is what the market's bearing, and you have to get other teams to bid. You have to get the other teams to bid. Now let's bring up the trail. So you had the Mets making that offer, 3 years of $70 million. Alonso saying no, thank you. Let me move on. Then the Mets supposedly pivoted to Plan B, got AJ Minter, got Jesse Winker, made a couple of nice minor league signings as well. But still, nothing. They didn't acquire any batters on that level that I would have thought, that I think that we need. I mean, we still need protection for Soto. I believe I wanted to add 2 legitimate bats after Soto. Did we add bats after Soto? Winker? No. I mean, he's a nice bat, but it's not of that protectional level. So I'd like to upgrade, especially if you look at the competition. I said, hey, the Mets are probably the second best team. But I want to see Atlanta healthy. But if Atlanta's healthy, Atlanta could fight for that second seed in the NL. If Atlanta's healthy, that's a caveat there as well. So there are legit teams out there. The Padres are good. The Brewers, you saw them; they were tough out. Phillies, they're going to try to get better and better. So there are teams to contend with. And are the Mets just getting one player, Juan Soto, and then a bunch of status quo moves, Shormanaya? And people keep saying they added Shormanaya. Give them credit. No, that's a status quo move. You had Shormanaya. And even at replacing guys like, okay, you replaced the Quintana. You replace a Quintana with a Holmes. Okay, you see more upside there. That may be a good move and maybe a status quo move. But I need clear upgrades. The Dodgers, they have been adding on to their core. They were already up here and they're adding on. The Mets, were here, right? And they lost a bunch of players. They lost a bunch of starting pitchers. So in the beginning of this offseason, they went from here at the World Series to down here. So their move got them to kind of, in my opinion, to status quo. Is Juan Soto better than Pete Alonso? So yeah, maybe they're a little better than at the end of the offseason. AJ Minter, is he behind Diaz? Is he better than anything that we had last year behind Diaz? I would say yeah. So we might have improved our bullpen by a little. We might have improved our lineup by a little. Our rotation, that might be more of a debate. You can argue that yes, you can argue no, but at the end of the day, have we improved our overall club enough? And I don't think there's any doubt that we have it. So at the end of the day, I have to believe that there's still time, and I'm going to continue to say this, still time, and the deadline, that is far away. Right now, there's plenty of time to add players from other teams. There's still free agents on the market. We're always going to be working the waiver wire. And then, we have time to get our team ready for the playoffs. But, the Torkelson option, that was interesting. I still agree the Pete Alonso option is more of a guarantee. But if they want to get creative, that was an interesting option. Now, I promised that I would tell you what would be the trade package. In fact, let me look at baseball trade values, because baseball trade values, what they do is they'll give you a value of a player. They tell you what he's worth. So I'm going to give you, according to baseball trade values, what this guy's value is worth and what an equivalent value from the Mets would be. But again, thank you for everybody who's sticking with me. And I'm going to repeat, if you haven't got a chance to like the video or subscribe, again, now is another opportunity. So we're going to do the Detroit Tigers, and Detroit Tigers are making a trade with our New York Mets. Okay, so Tigers, Spencer Torkelson. All right. So, according to baseball trade value, Spencer Torkelson essentially has no value. They give him a value of three. Three. So, three is really nothing. Like, example, Luis Angel Acuna, his value is 10. Francisco Alvarez, his value is 33. Um, Jesus Baez, he's a minor leaguer. His value is 15.3. Boston Barrow, another minor league, is 8.2. Brett Beatty, his value is 7.5. So his value is double the value of Torkelson. So, for all, and I heard something out there about, okay, it would take a Brett Beatty plus another low league minor leaguer. I mean, why would you have to overpay? Why would you have to overpay for a guy who has such a low value? Another trade that I heard that I didn't like this one. A Colin Houck. Colin Houck, he was a number one pick a couple years ago, a shortstop. He's been very disappointing. His value's low. His value's around 3, so it would make sense to do that trade. But the kid's 19, so I like to see him fail for another 1 or 2 more years before I trade him. But at the end of the day, I think you can get away with trading a mid to low level prospect. I don't think you have to give away any top prospects. I don't think you have to give away any guys with potential like Brett Beatty. I think you can give maybe a package of low level prospects and pull it off. This is the situation where the Mets can get this deal done and give up no-name prospects and get it done. If they give any prospects of value, I'd be extremely disappointed because you don't have to. You really don't have to. All right. So that being said, I think that's creative if they decide to go there. A guy who had 31 home runs a year ago, a guy who was scouted to have almost an eagle eye, a guy who was scouted to have elite raw power, potential MVP, definite all-star. I mean, the guy was a running back in high school. The guy has these tools that, cannot be taught. It's what he's born with. So, I like what I heard from the scout. Do I like what I see from his major league career thus far? It hasn't translated. It hasn't translated. There's really no doubt about that. His on base is not there. His OPS is not there. His average is not there. His power tool has been erratic. But again, I guess to the scouts' credit, already 1 year under the belt of 30 plus home runs. So let's see. Let's see what happens. Let's see what happens. Well, that's news for today. This is Amazing's Day, so whoever is celebrating that, congratulations. I saw a couple interviews from Lindor, Vientos. The guys are having fun at Amazing's Day. Very interesting. I'm in Florida, so unfortunately, a couple people asked me if I would be there. I'm not. I'm in town right now. So thank you for everything. I appreciate every one of you. Again, we are marching to 5K subs. We are a ways away. So I need everyone to subscribe, spread the word. Thank you all. Thank you. And I can't say thank you enough. I'll say thank you again. All right. All right, folks. Have a great night, day, whenever you are watching this.